One of the things I've always loved about this podcast community is that we welcome everyone, no matter your religion, your race, politics, gender, or orientation. We don't have to agree on everything, but we do respect each other's humanity. That's why it broke my heart to see a few people in our group posting celebratory videos about Charlie Kirk's murder. Those members have been banned. There's absolutely no place here for celebrating the death of anyone ever. No matter where you fall politically or what your beliefs are, nobody deserves to be killed for expressing their views. This was a senseless act of violence, and it will impact not just the U.S., but the world. I think now is the time for us to reflect on how important it is to have peaceful conversations. Sometimes we just need to agree to disagree, and that's okay. At the end of the day, this community is about connection, respect, and real conversations. Thanks for being a part of this family and helping me keep it a space where people feel safe to be themselves.
Welcome to Secrets of a Sugar Daddy. Here's your host, Marcus.
Welcome to another episode of Secrets of a Sugar Daddy, the number one sugar dating podcast in the world, where we pull back the curtains on the good and the bad and the shocking stories of sugar dating. This show is going to be a little different. We're going to get into a few subjects. I've got our good friend Brian Howie from The Great Love Debate who's joining us. But before we get to him, I'm just going to remind you of our parties coming up. I'm not going to get into it too deep because you guys hear it every week, but applications are live. Go to our website, secretsofasugardaddy.com. Press the party tab. You'll find out all the information. It's for Brian Adams and Pat Benatar in November 14th through 16th in lovely Phoenix, Arizona. You're going to have a great time. The weather's going to be great, and you're going to meet the greatest people, and you'll make friends for life. It'll be something you'll never forget. It's absolutely free for the women. And then men, if you want to sponsor it and be a part of it, I highly recommend it. You'll have, again, the time of your life. Get in touch with me at info@secretsofasugardaddy.com. Now, our Patreon members, if you are a member there, you are going to get priority judging. And, you know, if you don't even plan on coming to the party, we highly recommend you joining our fan club. It supports the show. We really appreciate it. Helps pay the bills. We don't make any profit on this podcast, but we are starting to cover a few expenses, and we really, really appreciate that. And you'll love the family. So join us at patreon.com/Secrets of a Sugar Daddy podcast. Okay, let's get to business. I got a lot of things to talk about today. I know you're not going to be listening to this for about a week or so, but today actually is 9/11. And of course, that's a special day that we take to remember the tragedy that happened in 2001. But that's, we've kind of dealt with it, and, time has passed, and we've somewhat healed from it, although there's still many families hurting from their losses on that day. But we had another tragedy happen that I do want to get into, no matter what side of the political scale you're on. I just want to comment on a few things, and I'm sure our friend Brian Howie has a few things to say, but let me go ahead and bring him in. How are you?
How are you? Yeah, I was in New York, 9/11. So.
Well, were you really?
Oh yeah, I was there. It was,
how close?
Next year's going to be 25 years.
How close were you to the buildings? Close enough?
Pretty close. And the thing I remember about 9/11, three things. It was the nicest day ever, weather-wise.
Oh, September's gorgeous in New York.
It is, but there'd never been a bluer sky. And people talk about that day. Like, I still get that feeling on a really nice day. Like, this feels like that day.
Uh-huh.
And
birds chirping, people walking their dogs.
It was the bluest sky and everything. When it first happened, people were like, what are we going to do? Whatever. And everybody went where I was, because I was downtown, to St. Vincent's Hospital, because people thought we were told they need to deal blood, to give blood and all that. And so there were maybe 1,000 of us out on the street. There were gurneys. There were every possible thing covered with cloth for stretchers, whatever. And everybody's looking down at the World Trade Center waiting for ambulances to come. They never came. You either died or you lived.
Yeah.
There were no injuries. And you realize that after like an hour, like nobody's coming. And there was, a handful of people maybe got hit with debris and whatever, and they came, but nobody in that building. It's really like a line in that building at the 78th floor, whatever. If you were below that, you were okay, and if you were above that, you were not. So that was the worst feeling, and it was like nobody's getting out of here.
Yeah, everybody remembers that day. If you were old enough, what you were doing, when you heard it, and how you felt that day. And my personal experience was I was in between jobs, so I was still laying in bed. My wife's at the time, her sister called and said, "Oh my God, they're bombing New York." Because we didn't know what was going on,
right?
Like all the speculation, like things were blowing up. So we turned on the TV and we sat there in shock and literally just stared at the TV the entire day. We're in the flight path here in Phoenix, where airplanes come over our house every minute, and you're used to it. You hear the sound of the airport, the airplanes getting close to the airport. Dead silence.
Yeah.
You walk outside, dead silence. It was the most eerie thing I ever remember because there was no planes in the sky.
No, my girlfriend was a flight attendant at the time. She was in the air, so I didn't know what happened to her. I was online. I was about to leave for the airport later that day. And the Giants had played the night before Monday Night Football in Denver. And I went back years later. I was looking for an email. I'm like, how far back do my emails go? And I'm like, oh my God, let me see what I was doing on the morning of 9/11.
They go that far?
Yeah, it did that. It's just not now, but maybe 10 years ago I looked at it. And I went from emailing a friend of mine like, God, that Giants sucked.
Yeah.
What's going on at the World Trade Center? Like something like I heard it and I didn't really pay attention. And then I moved to LA a couple years later. And the first thing I thought in LA is like, is there something bad going on in New York? Because if you lived in LA, which a lot of people probably do, we're on the West Coast then, and maybe you woke up at 7:30, 8, it was all over. Like a lot of it was over. So to this day, no matter where I am in the world, I make sure I am up at 8:30 New York time, like a PTSD thing. I always operate on East Coast time, literally like no matter where I am, because I'm afraid something's bad's going down in New York. It's very strange. One quick question, though, thing on the that I noticed. This is a little bit of sidebar, but we're going to get into some dark stuff. So you brought up Brian Adams and Pat Benatar.
Yes.
About 5 years ago, Pat Benatar stopped being just Pat Benatar, and it's Pat Benatar and the husband.
Neil Gerardo or something like that.
He's been a part of, he wrote all the songs, but the whole time, when did that conversation take place?
I was wondering the same thing because I noticed the same thing. And then I did a little research on his history, and he's a part of...
He's a huge producer, super talented, but he's always been in her life. So when did they have the conversation like, I need to be co-billed on here? Because nobody's going to see him.
Yeah.
He's not Oates.
Well, even when we announced it and posted it on our Patreon, hey, we're having Sugarpalooza 7, Brian Adams, Pat Benatar, and somebody goes, and who's this Neil? Is that Neil Diamond?
Right. I noticed in Vegas a couple years ago, I'm like, at what point nobody's going to see him?
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
I get that he's part of
the guitarist.
That had to be a conversation between them where he's like, okay, I need my time in the spotlight.
Yeah, that is an interesting dynamic. Because when I first read it, I thought, oh, that's 3 different performers.
Yes. That's what people think.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and somewhere, it's not like she added a different backup group. It's not like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It's his name co-billing like there's Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, good point. All right. So speaking of eerie feelings and being in a fog and watching TV all day, yesterday, I just want to touch on the tragedy with Charlie Kirk. And I know you've seen plenty of news media on this, and I'm sure you've had plenty of friends that had a lot to say on this subject, but I don't follow him that closely, but of course I see all of his clips. I know there's some things that I don't 100% agree on, just like with anything, but I never want the guy dead, right? Or anybody, right? There's plenty of politicians that I don't agree 100% on, even Trump. Like, I'm glad he's in office. Yes, I voted for him. I'll admit that. But there's things that I'm like, oh my God, that stupid motherfucker. I can't believe he said that. I can't believe he did that. I would never do that. Would never support that. But when I look at the entire picture, I'm glad that I did. Okay. And I'm in business and I've grown up Republican. So that's kind of the side that I've always gone to. And I'm open and I'll listen to other sides. And I like to have a good conversation with somebody that has a different opinion. That doesn't bother me. I have plenty of friends on Instagram and Facebook and social media. They'll post anti-Trump, anti-conservative, anti all this stuff. And I read it and I just like, okay, well, I know their stance, right? But I don't unfriend them. I don't find them as an enemy to me. And I still like them as a person.
I agree with you. Something, and Charlie had been in our podcast studio in Boca Raton. Ben Shapiro had been in there, and the level of security that they had to go in ahead of time, I remember that, to check out our studio, make sure it's okay, is more than we have for some of the Trump family.
Yeah.
They do have security so they know. But, obviously I host the Great Love Debate. I'm all about debate and engagement and disagreeing and everything. The fact, I think it changed during COVID, where people were like, if you do not comply with what I think, I want you to die as a penalty. And where people were like gleeful, like, haha, he didn't get the shot and now he's dead. There, people were sort of open with, if I don't agree with you, I'm either okay or wanting you dead. And that is much different. I mean, I travel around the world a lot. You go to a lot of countries and healthy disagreement is part of their culture. Somewhere along the line in this country, it became, if I don't disagree with you, we are bitter enemies. We cannot have any other conversation. It has trickled into dating. People want to know where you stand on Trump before the edamame comes. Like literally, they want to know. People used to be married for 7-8 years and they might not even know how each other voted. Now it is, I need a referendum on where you stand on these 7 things before we even get an appetizer. And I'm like, why? How does that affect anything?
I've had people, fans of the show, actually we've hooked up, men and women, and the woman will tell me that they went out with a certain individual. He found out that she voted for Trump and he will not call her back, even though they had a wonderful time together.
I know. And I'm like, you're not going to agree on everything. And if you're thinking like how you feel, and people can go back and forth, you can change your mind. Trump was a Democrat, people change.
The girls on The View used to like him.
They used to like him. There's no nuance in everything, in anything anymore that people are like. And so you bring up this Charlie Kirk thing, like even some people were even like, well, he died, but he shouldn't have done this or should. It ranged from like outright glee to like, you deserve this. And if anything, he was about open to hearing other people's ideas and having friendly debate about it.
Peaceful debate, peaceful conversation,
And he was good at it. He was going to college campuses saying, and so he was mostly about, faith and family. That's not for everybody, but if it's not for you, who cares?
Right.
And the fact that the level of, vitriol since he died, like, I'm like, there is a lot of angry, unhappy, and downright shitty people in our ecosystem right now that has really started to reveal itself in a way. And, a lot of people's whole identity is, I hate Trump. Or the other way, people's identity is, I love Trump. People didn't used to lead with their politics. And the way that has trickled into, love, dating, and relationships is not a good thing.
You're listening to Secrets of a Sugar Daddy. Now back to the show with your host, Marcus.
Well, let me ask about something you posted 6 hours ago that's getting a lot of traction. You said on Facebook, I was always aware of how many truly terrible people there are, but what I always underestimated was
how many truly terrible people
I know.
I know. I didn't know. And some of the stuff is just, I lost a lot of people, social media wise back in COVID because I was very outspoken about a lot of stuff. And people were like, I don't disagree with you. We can't even connect. But, a lot of people, I was kind of sitting on that thought for a couple of days, but the last 24 hours, these are people sometimes that I considered friends or that I have business relationships with. And part of me is, it's terrible that you feel that way, but you feel that way to the point that you need to go public and you need to share these sort of angry, hateful feelings. I'm like, what are you doing?
I mean, the body's still warm and you're dancing on the grave.
Right.
It's unreal.
What are you trying to get at this? I mean, you don't have to care about the guy, care about the widow and care about the kids and care about the fans and care about whatever. But why do you need to say that?
Yeah.
And this is something that has changed in our society, over the last 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is. It didn't used to be this way.
So what's happening for me is the same thing that he was experiencing as I was going through our podcast Instagram. People that I considered friends that I've had conversation with, who's attended our parties, who I am cordial to, even though I do know they're liberal. I've seen their posts over and over and over. I know they hate Trump, but I still consider them as friends. All of a sudden, they've crossed the line to me by saying, well, he basically got what he deserved. And, he fought for the Second Amendment. So that's what, he's now an advocate for the gun that killed him or whatever. Right. And so I had to post and this is our official podcast statement on this. I posted this on Patreon. I'll just read it word for word. It says, today has been really heavy. What happened was disturbing on so many levels, and I'm still processing it. One of the things I've always loved about this podcast community is that we welcome everyone, no matter your religion, your race, politics, gender, or orientation. We don't have to agree on everything, but we do respect each other's humanity. That's why it broke my heart to see a few people in our group posting celebratory videos about Charlie Kirk's murder. Those members have been banned. There's absolutely no place here for celebrating the death of anyone ever. No matter where you fall politically or what your beliefs are, nobody deserves to be killed for expressing their views. This was a senseless act of violence, and it will impact not just the U.S., but the world. I think now is the time for us to reflect on how important it is to have peaceful conversations. Sometimes we just need to agree to disagree, and that's okay. At the end of the day, this community is about connection, respect, and real conversations. Thanks for being a part of this family and helping me keep it a space where people feel safe to be themselves. And the reason I had to post that is because I literally had to block and ban paying members of our Patreon. I don't care if you're a $75 a month subscriber. If you're going to post celebratory videos and dance on the grave of somebody that was just having a peaceful conversation with people that did not agree with him, I'm sorry, you're dead to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, we got a little bit of a sneak peek. When Trump got shot last summer, the people were, but I get the hate towards Trump or any, I get
that too.
I get it. This is not Trump. And this guy didn't really affect your life that much at all. And
he didn't say terms like you can grab him by the pussy and things like that. This guy is completely different.
He just had his beliefs. Like, you don't have to agree with them. And like I said, one thing I never do when I date somebody, I don't ask how they vote. I don't care. The only thing that really affects me is maybe if you're pro-choice or pro-life. That might affect me, but I don't care. And I can't believe that people are like, I need to define myself. This guy said something that I disagree with, and whatever he talked about, guns, or apparently the shooter is trans or whatever, like, it doesn't affect you to the level that you should be publicly gleeful, because you're really exposing a side of you that, like, it's not healthy. It's not good. Same the other way. If you're wearing a MAGA hat in every single social media picture, like, put it away. Like, you shouldn't define yourself by pro or anti-politics. I just don't.
Mm-hmm. I also saw somebody post, unfortunately, the ones that are posting it are the ones that you would think that would be posting that. Like, it's not a surprise.
Well, you say that, but
then
people,
you had a few surprises.
I was stunned.
Yeah.
Not that they might have privately felt that way, but the fact that they were, I'm like, oh my God, is that guy's like that? She's like that?
Yeah, I do take that back. There's this one girl I follow, and she never posts anything political ever, and she kind of reposted something that was anti-Charlie Kirk, and I was like, wow, now what do I do with this person? Because I like them, and I don't want to unfriend or unfollow them, but I was surprised.
And people are just so not open to discussion. It is so black and white. It's so this is what you're not going to change my mind, and if you try to change my mind, I hate you. Like, ironically, that's what Charlie Kirk did. He tried to have open discussion and change some minds and do that. But it's like, hey, can we talk about this for a second? They're going into that conversation. Neither of us, thankfully, is old enough to remember the 60s. We hear a lot of peace and love for the 60s, but there was obviously the Vietnam War probably put people on other sides. And obviously, in quick order, both Kennedys Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, like shootings were bad. And I don't, I'm not old enough to remember that time. Was it like this, where every conversation is sort of people are taking a political stance? I don't know. It's not healthy.
And then there was some people that I was actually surprised at their posting and their comments about Charlie Kirk. And one of them was Jeffree Star. You know who I'm talking about?
I do not.
So he is a man, and he looks like a transvestite. He's pink hair. He's huge. Makes $1 billion in makeup, and he does makeup. And he went on and posted. He was actually doing a live when this whole thing went down, and then he's reacting to the shooting as it happened, and then finding out that Charlie Kirk actually had passed away. I was shocked by the support that he had for Charlie Kirk, for the right of him to be out there, and for applauding him for having these peaceful discussions. And then also he backed up Charlie Kirk's stance on men are men and women are women. You're never going to change that. No matter what surgeries you have, no matter how you pretend to be, you're still going to be either a man or a woman. And he doubled down on that. And he started losing followers left and right because he's really big in the LGBTQ community, the trans community. And all of a sudden, like, people are like, "Oh my God!" And he's reading all the comments, and people are like, "I'm unfollowing you. I'm unsubscribing you." And he's like, "Be gone!" Like, if you can't handle this,
it's
the truth, then we don't even need you.
It's the ones who put themselves out there as the most tolerant that are always the least tolerant. Some of the news coverage last night, I saw Matthew Dowd got fired from MSNBC.
As he should have been.
Right. But there was a lot of little hinting at that, like, if you engage in this kind of dialogue, you sort of take your chances. And I'm like, what? He was going to colleges. He was mostly debating colleges and debate has gone back since, Adam and Eve. This used to be a healthy intellectual activity. You don't have to agree with things. And now it's like, if you don't agree with me, you don't deserve to exist. And we're okay with that. And if you bring up, contentious conversation, anything can happen to you. What are we doing?
Right. So our condolences, our prayers for the Kirk family. You didn't silence anybody. And I know it was just one shooter. He doesn't speak for every person out there. But I just couldn't believe how many people were so supportive of the shooter. It's just unbelievable.
No matter how you feel about guns, pro or con, there's a generation of people who grew up on first-person shooter video games that have become really good shots.
Yeah.
And that's a problem with school shootings, and that's a problem with a lot of people, it's desensitized people to shooting because they've spent generation growing up shooting people on video games.
Right.
That's a different conversation. But
well, I was always good at it, and I liked the shooting games, but I was shooting zombies and
right. You're shooting people.
Yeah.
And the desensitization of that, it's not a big leap to your classmates and whatever. I mean, the gun discussion is a different matter, but you should be able to have both sides. That's one that I'm like, I see both sides of that. Immigration, I see both sides of that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I am not a right-wing, although by my voting history, you would think I would be. But I have great friends who are illegal immigrants, and I have, we've worked together, and I support them 100%, and I would hate to see them go. But then again, I look on their side, I'm like, well, they all have admitted to me that they did something illegal, and they haven't done anything about it since they've been here 20, 25 years. They've just continued to be here illegally and haven't bothered to.
I consider myself common sense, and now common sense, a lot of times you're perceived as really extreme.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Right.
You're listening to Secrets of a Sugar Daddy. Now back to the show with your host, Marcus.
Okay, we'll get off the political stuff for now. I do want to talk to Brian. He's had some health issues that come up that are kind of disturbing and life-changing, and let's talk about this for a second. Thanks for being willing to do that, but you've had this nasty thing called cancer invade in an area of your body, and
I'm a cancer guy now.
Yeah. Did you ever imagine that?
No, and I'm always like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I was in a car accident. Quick story on it. 6 years ago, I broke 20 bones. It was terrible, but I broke 13 ribs.
Oh, jeez.
13 ribs hurt so much that I also broke my leg in the accident. I didn't know for a month that I broke my leg because my ribs hurt so much I couldn't even focus.
Oh, can't even imagine.
12 of the ribs healed, and for years, one of them did not. And I kept getting it checked, and they're like, yeah, you really messed up that rib, and ribs don't always heal and whatever. And then about 6 months ago, I had to go for one of those executive physicals where they check everything out, and they're like, do you know what's going on in your 8th rib? And I go, yeah, car accident. I was in a lift, and I got hit a couple. And they're like, no, this is something else. Test, biopsy, whatever. And not only is it cancer, it is a cancer in a location that nobody has ever had before.
Really?
It is what they call, there's rare cancers, there's ultra rare, and then there's this. And it is, busted through my rib, and it's in a bunch of other ribs, and it's incredibly painful, obviously. But when you get into the medical world and they don't know, and there's no like, what do we do about this? I don't know. And they're like, I don't know. And so I've gone to doctors, and what I've learned about this, how's it affected me is, it took a long time for me to share publicly this because you are kind of defined by that. And I can't believe how many people care. I can't believe how many people have history with things, ideas, everything from go to Bali and eat blueberries to try this. People are really, for somebody who's kind of a cold-hearted bastard like me, when I lived in Los Angeles, I used to think to myself, if I got in a boat and rowed out into the Pacific, how long would it take anybody to notice, and how long would it take anybody to care? And for a long time, I didn't like those answers. I can't believe how many people care. And I did not know that. And that's shame on me for not being sort of open to that. But, every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, yeah, I have cancer. Because I've been dealing with the pain in the rib for a long, long time. And for a long time, you could justify it like, yep, car accident, I have chronic pain from it. Well, now I know what it is, and it's a whole different, like...
So from the car accident, that's what spawned
They think either trauma sort of let it go, or they think it was there, and it was one of those stories where, like, somebody bangs their head and they find a brain tumor. They're like, oh, it's fortuitous. The doctors now, they're like, this should have been discovered when you had all the scans back during the car accident. They think it goes back a couple years before that, but they think trauma, like, unleashed the cancer. It went from something either benign or fairly inconsequential to it basically exploded in my body. And, it's rough because when the doctors are like, yeah, we don't know, or it doesn't sound good, or it doesn't look good. And then you start doing, even little things. I'm like football season starts and I'm like, oh, week 14, the Giants play the in New Orleans. Maybe I want to go to that. And I'm like, am I going to be all right in week 14? Like, you're constantly reassessing everything from relationships to timetables to work to priorities. And it never leaves my mind. I'm already distracted by the pain all the time.
Because you're, what, 58? 58?
Yeah.
Where is time going?
Well, I look good because I have no kids. It doesn't stress me out.
Yeah.
But part of that is the thing, too. So you have to start doing math on this. Like, a friend of mine said, are you willing to do anything to, like, survive this? And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, there's a surgery that they want to do that's fairly debilitating. Like, they're taking out half of my rib cage. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm wired. And God bless the people who do this. I'm not wired to be somebody, like, stuck in a wheelchair or
what would be the recovery time on that?
I mean, that's what they're going to do. They're like, it's never going to quite be the same. It might be painful. It might not get all the cancer. I have to do it. I have to do the surgery, but I am not necessarily like a survive at all costs because I'm not married. I don't have kids, and that does change your priorities. And a lot of people are offended by that perspective. And when I said this out loud, people are like, ooh, I'm like, if I'm not 80% of what I am, I'm not that motivated, which is terrible. I mean, people live with a lot less perfectly happy and valuable lives. I just don't know if I'm wired that way. So you certainly, then you start to have conversations like that in your head and publicly, and it's just a weird time. I don't know. So I can't get hugs anymore.
So now that it's kind of hit you like a slap in the face, what are your thoughts of mortality? What are your thoughts of the afterlife?
I mean, I started thinking about that. Like, what happens to me?
Right.
Does my family take my body? And then I want to be stuffed like a moose, like taxidermy. They don't allow that.
Yeah.
All 50 states, it's banned. Why?
You looked into it?
I definitely looked into it. I'm like, I want to be in like a recliner, like in front of the TV. You can't do it here. In America, I want to be like King Tut.
I'm going the way my parents were. They said, just cremate us and then spread us out somewhere.
I know. But then I'm like, where do I go with that? My family doesn't live around here. I'm not very close to them. So then I'm like, I don't even have those thoughts. And so you start to think about that, like, where's the funeral? Is there a funeral? And it's so weird. And then you get, people have come in. Somebody came in this podcast studio yesterday. They're like, I heard you had cancer. I want to pray for you. I'm not the most, spiritual. I'm not the most religious guy, but I appreciate the gesture. And I'm like, pray away.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I went to Pennsylvania. I had a nun pray for me. I'm like, might work. Couldn't hurt.
Yeah. Couldn't hurt. Right.
Couldn't hurt. And then you learn, and, I'm somebody who's always a problem solver. You're constantly trying to be like Google MD, and, but when I look up this surgery that they want to do to me, nobody's ever had it. Nobody's ever had this surgery. And so I have some of the top doctors working on this: Cleveland Clinic, Mayo, MD Anderson, because they like the guinea pig aspect of it. I don't want to be the guinea pig. Part of me is like, I wish I just had regular old, colon cancer.
Wow. Okay. So
that's a dating thing too, you know? Hey, when you bring that up.
Right. So if you decide to get this surgery, do you have approximate date?
They're like TikTok. I was supposed to have it this week.
No way.
I kicked it back, and the doctors are like, stop stalling. They're like, there's no question. Like, if you don't do it, you're going to die.
Right.
And I kept going to doctors waiting for one to send I'm like, can't we just fill it in with caulk? Like, fill in the hole in my rib, and then it doesn't work that way. And so I've been partially stalling because it is it's a very debilitating surgery. It's a long, long recovery. It's painful, and it might not work. And so I have to make that call, but they're like, I've talked to enough doctors, you have, and even the alternative ones, you go to Mexico, and, they're like, you got a lot better shot if you cut out as much as you can and go from there. But they're like, yeah, it's not good. And so then you're like, was the peak of, I've had it pretty good. I've had it pretty easy. I've had a pretty stress-free life, lots of girlfriends and stuff. And it's like, is that it? Is it check, please? Did I have my run?
Yeah. You definitely get a different mindset when something's presented to you like that. Not to get too much into religion, I grew up in churches. Parents had me in the Baptist church. I've, explored the Mormon church. And when I was in university, I went to a private Baptist university. We had a world religions class. So where we studied all the religions. There's, how many sects and branches. There's thousands and thousands of religions and thousands of beliefs. In my gut, ever since I was a small kid, and I've actually met girls through sugar dating who claim, I met a girl, she claimed that she was different people at different times in our historical time, like in the 1400s, she was this, in 1600s, she was this. Is there reincarnation? Do our spirits go somewhere and then are recycled? Does Charlie Kirk come back as a different person one day?
I think I'm not religious. I'm super envious of those who are. Because they have clear answers in their head. Like, I'm envious of the believers. I've been to Jerusalem. You ever been to Jerusalem?
No, never been.
When you see the three major world religions all together, sharing space, all consider that the Holy Land, it's a little tense, but still, you're like, all these people are real close in what they believe, and they're so passionate about it. I'm jealous I don't have that. And because if they're like, oh, this is all part of God's plan, it makes a lot of things, including tragedy, sickness, a lot easier to deal with. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Nobody really knows. That's
Nobody,
the thing.
Which is why I think we're all agnostic. We just don't want to admit it. Atheists drive me nuts. They're very sure there's nothing. I'm like, really? How do we get here? And they don't care.
Yeah, I know.
Agnostic just means I don't really know for sure, and I'm open to all possible. And I'm like, okay, I hope, but because I've traveled a lot, and wherever I go, and you see Buddhists and Hindus and Muslims and everything, and envious of their, I am absolutely sure of this. That just seems like an easier way to live when you're not questioning everything in your faith and what's going to happen to me and all that. If you absolutely believe that there's nothing, I think your moral compass gets screwed up because there's no consequences to your behavior. There's no heaven, hell, there's no karma, there's no anything. And then you just be like, I'm going to do whatever I want for me. And I know some terrible people like that too. Like they couldn't possibly believe in anything other than themselves if this is the way they behave, because there would have to be consequences to that.
I was always surprised with when I first moved here in the late 90s and then early 2000s, Pat Tillman was killed in war. And I was always surprised at the reaction of, I think it was his brother or one of his family members. They absolutely believed that he was just worm food and nothing. There was no afterlife, nothing.
Right.
And I'm thinking, what a terrible mindset to have.
All of them were very like, nope, because people are like, his spirit is with us now. People were... Strangers were more positive that Pat was living there. They were like, no. Yeah. I thought that was strange too.
That caught me really by surprise that they were so outspoken about that.
Yeah. Some people are like that. Some people are real sure.
I wouldn't want to live life like that.
I wouldn't either. And I wouldn't want to be so sure about, in case I'm wrong.
Right. Yeah.
My best friend died of cancer about 15 years ago, and he found religion very late in life. And, it got him through the last few months because it really, led into sort of this acceptance of, and again, I'm not here saying I'm going to die or anything, but you do think about it. You do think about what ifs. And he kind of had to make his peace and, it helped him the last couple months of his life.
I dated this girl. She was a Mormon missionary. And it's kind of as I was first starting to explore the church. And she actually served a mission in Taiwan. And their message to the people was, you're going to be able to see that person again. They're not lost forever. And that was the most comforting thing to those people over there. And what resonated the most is that, where did my loved one go? And will I ever see them again?
Right.
So
Mormons are a happy bunch generally. Do you stick with that or not?
The what?
Mormons seem like a happy bunch. And ironically, the Charlie Kirk thing was in Utah. But Mormons, for whatever reason, they seem happier than a lot of other people. And you could be offended by that statement either way. But I have noticed that. Like Mormons kind of a happy bunch.
You're listening to Secrets of a Sugar Daddy. Now back to the show with your host, Marcus.
So speaking of Mormons, so this is what I find very, very interesting. And I did join the church back in the 90s, but I haven't gone in a while. So I don't know if I consider myself still a member. I'm probably still on the rolls, but I haven't been to church except for a funeral a couple times, their faith.
But I drink?
Yeah, I know.
You're not a Mormon.
They wouldn't approve. They wouldn't approve my lifestyle, although they still love me. Mm-hmm. But here's one fascinating thing: do you follow all of the astronomy that's now being discovered and is in my social media on a daily basis? It's absolutely fascinating to me what the James Webb telescope and the Hubble and what all of they're discovering that we never knew before, right? And they're peering deep into the galaxies, the solar system, and the universe, that places we've never seen. And now, they're saying it's a number that you cannot count how many planets are out there, more planets than there are grains of sand in our seas.
We used to think there was like 9 or something.
Yeah, 9.
And then we got rid of Pluto, and now there's actually more.
Yeah. So what I find interesting is that the Mormon religion started in the 1800s, and they were preaching that their version of life, their version of what happens after life, is you can actually inherit a planet.
Really?
Just like Adam and Eve was the inheritors of Earth, and everything spawned from them. You could become like Adam and Eve. And I thought that was the most crazy concept I've ever heard of. But all of a sudden now,
all
these telescopes are discovering so many planets that you can't even count them all.
If you didn't know anything about any religion, they all seem nuts and they all seem plausible.
Right.
People are like, oh, Scientology's crazy. I'm like, well, if you don't know anything about any religion and you just laid it all out from Greek mythology on, they all have stuff that's like, wait, what? What do you believe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's been fun watching all these discoveries come about that I'm just fascinating with that show up in my social media, and I find myself watching it. And I think the problem is the algorithm sees me watching it, so they
know. I mean, that's to bring it full circle here.
Yeah.
Like, people hate Elon Musk and they protest outside the Tesla dealerships and all this kind of stuff. He's going to get us to Mars, and that's going to benefit like societally, like the things we're learning from him pushing the envelope on this stuff.
Yeah.
Think what you want about his personal life or his politics or whatever. He's doing things or trying to do things that hopefully will benefit all of us.
Right. All right. Well, what else? Just a couple more things. We just got back from a trip to Chicago that was pretty amazing. So I took my sugar baby to go see Dua Lipa.
You've seen Dua Lipa a few times.
I'm in love with Dua Lipa.
Is her catalog expanding? When you first started seeing her, she had like 8 songs.
I know, right? Okay, here's an interesting observation. So I've gone to Dua Lipa concerts since 2017. She was in a small little club here in Phoenix called the Crescent Ballroom. Mm-hmm. You showed up at the door. It was $20 at the door. You didn't even need a ticket. There was 400 or 500 people in there. That was it. And then she got a bigger venue, which was the Van Buren, which had capacity of like, I don't know, 12 to 1,500. And then now she's selling out arenas and stadiums. The demographic of her audience is very interesting. So she appeals a lot to gay men, and I don't know why, but they gravitate to her, and there's tons of gay men there. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I'm seeing a shift of more heterosexual older men showing up at her concerts. And I was shocked being in Chicago, how old the men and women, but it wasn't just a lot of teenage boppers walking around to see her show. It was a lot older demographic.
Have you seen Lady Gaga?
On the books. I just put the deposit down.
Same thing. She's shifted. I know you saw Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Same thing. Her last tour was a lot of female and young. Mm-hmm. This tour, everybody.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when you grow in popular, the way to really grow, or the way you do grow, is to embrace everybody, that people are there sort of for the talent and the show and the music and all that kind of stuff. Like somebody like somebody like Alanis Morissette, mm-hmm. who was about as big as you could get for 10 years.
Yeah, from 95 to...
She still didn't tap into a lot of heterosexual males back in the day. It was still...
Well, it's because her songs were so angry against heterosexual males.
But you could say that about Taylor Swift. There are a lot of like, My Boyfriend Sucks.
Yeah.
That when you really want to grow and appeal to everybody, that's the thing. Yeah, Gaga's amazing.
Yeah.
It's worth going to.
She just announced a Phoenix stop, and we did put a deposit down on a suite. I don't know.
Is she playing a stadium, or is she playing?
Yeah, she's playing the arena right next to State Farm. Yeah. I don't know if this will be a Sugar Palooza, so don't get your hopes up too high, but it could be just a little teaser. I don't know what the price of tickets are. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Shakira one were really expensive, but we had a lot of sponsors, so we were able to cover most of that cost. But Lady Gaga, hopefully it's affordable, and who knows?
So you need to go like the Who, so you seem much younger.
The Who?
Yeah, if you go to like a Who concert, mm-hmm. or even like Springsteen, you'll be much younger and you'll seem more appealing.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, the Brian Adams concert is going to be a much older crowd, too.
Brian Adams he hadn't been around in a while, touring around, but I'd love to see. The first concert I ever saw in my life was the Kinks with Brian Adams.
No way.
84?
Yeah.
Something like that.
So here's what's funny. The Cubs, Chicago Cubs play their spring training ball here in Phoenix, in Mesa, actually, close to my house. And it was early 2000s, and I gotta say, maybe let's say 2005 or 6, somewhere around there. It's early 2000s. The Chicago Cubs were playing a spring training game, and afterwards was these 2 bands that were playing that had kind of faded, and it was Def Leppard and Brian Adams. And literally, you could just walk on the field, walk right up to the stage.
Yeah.
Like, just because their popularity had faded, but they were still kind of out there. Now they're both selling out arenas again.
I know.
It's unbelievable.
They get a second wind. New Kids on the Block is playing stadiums.
Yeah.
You do get a second wind. I always think it's funny to play the game. Who's the biggest band you ever saw open for somebody?
Oh, I got one. Who's yours?
U2 opened for the Pretenders.
Yeah. Here's mine. This was my second concert ever. My first concert was Kiss.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Second concert, we went to see this band called Rat. Round and round, what comes around goes around. They had a little known opener, and I saw everybody walking around with his concert shirt, and it said 5,600 Fahrenheit. And I'm like, what is this all about? Well, Bon Jovi got on stage. Yep. I remember one song. That's
Runaway.
it. He gets up there and he's on a piano. And then crowd goes crazy, and I'm like, what is going on? He jumps up on the piano, raises his hands to the sky. The whole stadium is going nuts, jumps off the piano, starts it again, and starts She's a Little Runaway.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he blew up so big. Still,
I saw Guns N' Roses open for Motley Crue.
Yeah. Yeah.
This just says we're old, but you never know. I saw Beastie Boys open for Madonna, and people were like, "Who are these guys getting off the stage?"
The Beastie Boys.
Yeah,
yeah, that's great. You've been to Chicago a lot, haven't you?
Yeah.
What do you think? This is my first real trip to Chicago.
If the weather is the same everywhere for one day,
yeah,
on that day Chicago wins.
Yeah,
it's not, and the weather isn't great all the time. But if it's 75 degrees, Chicago wins. That being said, summertime in Milwaukee's like Chicago without the bad parts. Milwaukee's amazing. Chicago's just, it's fun. You can be, for your audience out here, you can be a fat guy with a hot chick in Chicago. Yeah. They're okay with that. Like, it's fun.
So we have a big following from Chicago, and we have a lot of people that come to our parties from Chicago. So we wanted to check it out. We had a few people from the show go up there. We had quite a few who attended the concert, and then we did a pop-up meeting, just have drinks in an underground speakeasy there.
Yeah.
It was called 3 Dots and a Dash. You enter through an alley.
SOS.
And and you walk down these stairs, and they've got all these skulls like catacombs or something, and then it's tiki inspired. And it was huge.
It's awesome.
It was absolutely fantastic.
What part of town did you stay in?
We stayed real close to the river. Okay. Yeah, where the river Wise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where the Trump building is there?
Yeah, pretty close to that, yeah.
Yeah, no, Chicago's great. Going from, October to May, where it's cloudy and freezing every day, I wouldn't recommend, but on a good day, Chicago wins.
We did a riverboat architecture tour. I never realized the amount of thought and engineering that went into those buildings.
I don't know how people did. Even Hoover Dam, how did they figure that out?
Unbelievable. Built 1935 or something. And the generators are still working.
Yeah, how do they do the math?
From there.
Did you go to a Cubs game?
We went to a Cubs game. Now, here's the great thing. So Alejandro and I, we weren't too sure on how the L train was going to be because, Trump is supposed to be sending in the National Guard into Chicago. But not the parts that we were at, I don't think. So we rode the train. We didn't do it at night, but it was fine. You just make sure you're aware of your surroundings. Don't let anybody behind you that you don't.
Right.
We always sat in these seats where nobody was behind us. We could look to our left, right, and from us. We always had a bearing where we're at. And it was fine. We didn't have any problems. Going to the Cubs game was really cool because you get on the train and thousands of Cub fans just fill the train, and the energy is so cool.
New York's like that. Take a train at the Yankee Stadium, and everybody's going to the game.
Yeah,
it's fun.
So they all get off, walk around. And here's the great thing about that: I wore an Arizona Diamondbacks hat. Not a single person gave me shit. Not a single person said a word.
You're not a threat.
Not a threat. God forbid I wear a Dallas Cowboy hat in Philly. I'll get murdered.
Yeah.
It's so stupid, right?
I know. Yeah.
But it did feel like an accepting town and accepting part of
There's a lot of people there from all over the
yeah,
world too.
Yeah.
It's a very
I can't tell you how many Green Bay Packer fans I saw there.
Tons.
Yeah, just walking around in Chicago town.
I know. No, Chicago's great.
Yeah. So thanks. I just want to thank everybody for meeting us. We had a good group. I think we had like 11 or 12 people meet us for drinks. All came from the show and from our Patreon. We announced it there. So if you missed it, we go other places. We're actually going to San Diego this weekend, but I don't think we're going to have a time for a pop-up. But we love meeting fans of the show.
Yeah.
You ever meet fans from your show in different cities?
All the time. And I'm a little introverted. Sometimes it makes me uncomfortable. Like people are like, oh, I traveled 400 miles to meet you.
I know.
I'm like, what do I do with this information? Yeah.
We had a girl fly in from New Jersey.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what is my obligation to you?
Yeah.
It gives me anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
It's like, okay, monkey, perform.
I know. And I'm like, they're like, you want to go get some dinner? I'm like, no.
Well, here's the complaint I get that people have against me when they meet me is they're expecting this podcast energy
Yeah.
at the party, and I'm so running ragged trying to keep everything together and on schedule that I'm not Mr. Friendly at the parties. I try to be. I try to talk to everybody, but I'm not going to sit there and have a 30-minute conversation with you. It's just not going to happen.
I know. Same. You know, I've done my live Great Love Debate show all over the world, and when you're doing a show in like Sydney and 400 people come out to see you, I'm like, how do you know who I am? How do you know this? Yeah, an American guy who talks about love. And I'm like, and it's a little unnerving. I can't imagine what it'd be like to be actually famous, where everybody's in the room looking at, where you're like Jennifer Aniston, you can't go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like a good life.
Yeah. All right. Well, Brian, thanks for joining me. This was a little impromptu, but
this was good.
I felt like there was some things we definitely need to talk about. And again, people, just if you have differing opinions, that's fine. We actually encourage it.
Do better.
Yeah, but just don't dance on somebody's grave.
Yeah.
That's a little too much for us, and we like I said in our community, we accepting of everybody. Like I don't care if you're gay or trans. I'm not. I'm heterosexual. Proud of it.
Well, the day's not over.
But the day's not over. But I actually was supposed to meet up. Alejandra and I were supposed to meet up with a 6'5" black transsexual who had all the surgeries in Chicago, and we were going to interview her and hang out with her. The reason I even wanted to do that is because she looked like somebody that I wanted to get to know, and she looked very friendly on her profile, and we had a great texting back and forth. I don't care. Like, you're a human being. No matter what you identify as and what your path is, you just looked like a great person that I wanted to talk to. And we actually are going to interview her over Zoom or something. I wanted to do it, but Chicago was very, very busy for us, so I didn't get a chance. But we're accepting, but just don't spew hate. That's all we ask.
All good.
All right. And then I guess finally, don't forget to join us on our Patreon. You'll find out all the good information about the party, Sugarpalooza 7, and future podcasts, future pop-ups, all kinds of great things. It's just a big old happy family there, and we want to see you there. All right. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to connect or even be on the show, we'd love to hear from you at secretsofasugardaddy.com.